So now we have to do a very similar thing to when they actually successfully logged in, because if they successfully logged in, then we need to remove them from the cache. So let's go back into the listener package and we're going to create a new class and we're going to call it Authentication SuccessListener. And here again, we're going to annotate it as a component. And we're gonna bring in the actual login attempt service. So we're gonna do private login attempt service, and we're gonna call it login attempt service. And just like last time, we're gonna create a constructor for it. So constructor, and then here we're just gonna annotate this constructor with @AutoWire so that we can wire it. So AutoWire, and then here we're gonna create another method that's gonna return void. So we're gonna do public, and that's gonna return void, and let's call it on authentication success. Authentication success, and it's gonna take another event, which is authentication, and authentication. That's called success event. Okay, and let's just call it event. And in here, you know, when the user successfully logged in, what we get back is the whole user, right? So on authentication success and this event, when we try to get the actual authentication and get the principal, this is gonna be a user. So we can do object, and let's call it principal. And we're gonna set this equal to the event get authentication, and then get principal. Okay, so the reason we set this equal to an object, even though we know this is ultimately going to be a user, is because this get principal returns an object. Okay, so we have to get that in here first, and then what we can do is we can do another check. So we can do if the principal is an instance of our user, so that's going to be user coming from our domain, and then we want to add them to the cache. So this is always going to be true because that's just how the application is built, but just a safety check so that when we try to cast this principal into a user, we don't get an error in case that's not the case. So all we have to do here is to define a new user. So user, that's going to equal, and then of course we're going to cast it, and we're going to do the same here just to get that user. Okay, because we know when we log in successfully, we actually get a user. And then after that, all we have to do is to remove that user from the cache. So we're gonna do evict from login cache, and we pass in the user, get username. Okay, and of course we have to annotate this with @event listener. Okay, and that's all we have to do here. So this is, I think I have an error here. So authentication. So I have to refactor that, rename. So let's do authentication on success refactor. Okay, so this is all we need for the actual event, and that way we will know exactly when the user either successfully logged in or when the login failed, and then either way we can either add them to the cache or just remove them to the cache. So still at this point we're not really stopping anyone, like we're not disabling any account either if they've passed the number of attempts or not. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do this in the next lectures.